Joining us now is our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert. Doug, we have this visit by Antonio Guterres today. He's already had some pretty tough language or tough words for the Kremlin. Yeah. This must not be going down very well with Vladimir Putin.
No, this is everything that makes Vladimir Putin absolutely fume and have conniption fits, if you will. Look, we have seen an ongoing effort by the international community to collect evidence, and there's mounting evidence thereof, of war crimes, of crimes against humanity, and even accusations of genocide by Russian forces against Ukrainians, even though it's a comprehensive investigation of these acts on all sides. But it's really the evidence mounting to date points to, and the allegations are of Russian forces having occupied various towns that they then subsequently were forced to retreat from, abandon, having committed these atrocities. You have Guterres showing up on what is a highly symbolic visit, and he comes on the heels of European leaders and other leaders who have all made that pilgrimage, that trek, if you will, to what have now become these towns which have become basically emblematic of the horrors of this war against Ukraine begun on February 24th, the scene of some of the worst crimes we've seen. And yet, just according to Ukrainian authorities and the president of Ukraine, perhaps just the tip of the iceberg of what's to come as Russia continues its assault, its occupation of towns across Ukraine, with reports even in recent days and weeks of Russian forces in certain towns even trying to dig mass graves, to bury bodies, to conceal basically the alleged crimes. Look, I said that this enrages Putin, and it does, because Putin's narrative has been one that Russia's the victim, that NATO is the aggressor, that it's not Russia that invaded Ukraine, but rather Ukraine has posed the threat to Russia, that Ukraine was planning to invade Russia. Now, I know that seems implausible and completely laughable if you've been actually following the facts, the realities, the eyewitness reports from the ground in Ukraine throughout this war. But that is Putin's narrative. He is dug in, he is entrenched in it, he probably believes it very much. He is fiercely wedded to it because it wasn't born of this war. It is something that has been with him for years, for decades. This grievance-filled antipathy towards the West that he sees as out to get him, out to get Russia, out to humiliate Russia, out to weaken Russia. And to be fair, that narrative has been abetted by the fact that in recent days, yes, Western officials, including the U.S. Defense Secretary, has intimated that, yes, our goal is to make sure that Russia is deprived of the ability to wage these types of wars of aggression in the future. Some people say he went rhetorically too far by saying that, but the end goal being, Monty, yes, what Guterres is doing today, searching, investigating for war crimes, is all part of a narrative that enrages Putin. I'll just mention the ICC has joined Poland, Lithuania as well, and Ukraine in investigating these war crimes. They announced that yesterday.
What about what's happening on the ground? I mean, we know that Ukraine is under continued bombardment, but there are also reports that there are some attacks landing inside of Russia as well.
There are attacks deep within Western Ukraine. This is essentially a two-front, actually it's a multi-front war, but two very easily distinguishable fronts at this point. You have Russia amassing more troops, more weaponry, for what is expected to be in Western military official sphere is going to be a war of attrition, a long drawn-out war in the east with long-range weapons, for which Ukraine is desperately now seeking those heavier weapons to wage that type of battle over the next weeks and possibly months. The British Prime Minister has actually said, I believe it could last until the end of 2023. This could be a very long war. But at the same time, yes, targets in the West, railways, fuel depots, bridges, all being targeted by Russia. Why? Obvious reasons. They want to stop any infrastructure that is used for the storage of weapons coming in from NATO and its allies being sent to Ukraine to help Ukraine wage its war. Stop those weapons coming in. Stop them from being able to be transported. Ammunition depots have been hit. Just in the past 24 hours, there have been reports of new strikes against depots for this type of ammunition and weapons coming in, but also to cripple more broadly Ukraine's economy, because Ukraine, the Black Sea ports are now closed because of Russian blockage, and Ukraine has relied on exports of wheat and other commodities in order to fuel its economy. As long as those can't move out to clients abroad, Ukraine is effectively crippled and paralyzed in its economic well-being.
Okay, our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert. Doug, thanks as always.